So is there a office of WWF in India? Because I am not aware of.
Yes, there is. There's lots. And the headquarters of WWF International is in Switzerland.
There's also, particularly in India, there's a very large education and youth engagement team. Your education team in India is brilliant. We have done, some of our colleagues went out to India particularly to have meetings and conferences with people with WWF India. So go on the web and look up WWF India and you will explore and learn a lot.
Do they, like, the polar bears can slip or like get their legs stuck in the snow as the snow is not like hard? So how can they walk on the top of the snow as they are heavy also?
It's a good question. Their paws are really, really wide. They act a bit like paddles, which help to keep them above the snow. You sometimes see polar bears flopping into the snow and sinking into the snow, but they have very clever paws, which are very, very wide, and they kind of work a bit like snowshoes.
Penguins, how do, if they get injured in some way, how do they like cure themselves? Like, do they mend themselves, or how do they cure themselves to walk further?
I think it's like all wild animals. If they had a small injury, then they would be able to survive. And if they had a large injury, they probably wouldn't. And because they live in the wild, so there's no one, they wouldn't be able to receive any help. But penguins live in huge groups, and so they can often huddle for protection. So I can imagine if there was one of the penguins that was injured, I can imagine that the other penguins would get food and would huddle with them too, and hopefully they would survive.
So, for how many months or years do the polar bear go for hibernation?
It's only the females, especially pregnant females, that go into that state of lethargy or tiredness or hibernation. And they do that from about October, November through to March and April, which is also because it's on the North Pole, the Arctic, it's the coldest part of the winter. And then that's where they will have their babies, and that's where the babies will suckle, and the mothers will lose a lot of their fat. So they will need in March or April to come out and quickly find some juicy seals to eat.
Thank you, Anatma. So I have a question about penguins. I know that polar bears live in the Arctic and they have a lot of fur to protect them from getting very cold. And other animals also which live in the Arctic mostly. But as I've seen in the pictures, penguins don't have that much fur. So how do they keep warm in these climates?
Well, penguins they also have a very thick layer of fat, which helps to keep them warm, so it helps to keep them insulated. And their sort of little round bodies, quite fat. And then they have feathers which are covered in oil. So the oily feathers repels water, so they keep dry, so they don't get wet when they go in the water. So that oily surface keeps them warm, so they keep dry. They also have some other incredible adaptive features. They have very thick feet, so their feet don't get cold. And they also, the reason that they're white on the bottom and black on the back is because when they're swimming, a leopard seal will look up at the surface and they won't be able to see the white belly against the sunshine. Whereas if a leopard seal is on the ice looking down, the leopard seal can't see the black back against the dark water. So it's a really clever way that they're two different colours to camouflage themselves against predators.
What is the average age span of polar bears and penguins?
Live till about 30 years in the wild, but it's rare. Most adults die before they reach 25.
Ma'am, so like, do y'all check every day that today a number went up, a number went down of polar bear or any other animal?
Yes, you can keep checking. If you look on the website called IUCN.
So you mentioned that polar bears swim in the water and they catch their food from the water. So how do they learn to swim?
They are such good swimmers. They can swim for a really long way. They can swim for miles, so they're really good swimmers. I think it's just something they know how to do, and they probably learn it also from the mother polar bear. But yeah, they're very good swimmers.
How do they save themselves from the predators?
That is a good question. So they camouflage against their predators, but they're also extremely fast swimmers. So penguins are flightless birds, they can't fly, but their little, what we think are wings, are actually flippers, so they're super, super speedy when they're in the water.
You see, penguins keep their babies on their leg, beneath them. Why is that so?
It's to keep them warm, because again, in the Antarctic, it's very, very, very cold. And so they huddle underneath, and it helps to keep them warm and keep them safe.
Thank you.
Have polar bears ever been domesticated like penguins have?
It's a good idea. And we do see polar bears in captivity, don't we? So we do see polar bears in zoos. But I do think it's quite sad because they really are so suited to their very, very cold environment. And they're not suited to being in the zoo. But many of the animals that we do see in zoos are born in captivity. And what's interesting is actually those animals wouldn't be able to go back into the wild because they haven't been born in the wild. And people sometimes think we could release animals that are in captivity back into the wild, but we can't because they're not the strongest animals. And so they would mate with other animals and it would actually weaken the species. And so it is best to keep wild animals wild.
There are rare types of birds also, so how does 𝒊𝒏𝒈 study those types of birds? Like, do they have some ways of spotting those birds and then studying them?
Yeah, so I think that as part of our, every 2 years we produce a report called the Living Planet Report, and it's based on the Living Planet Index. And WWF works with so many different scientists and organisations to try and collect all that information. There are people all around the world who aren't necessarily part of WWF, but who will give that information to WWF so they can say, look, this population of bird species is going down, or this species is going up, or this is stable, so that the people who want to protect the animals can work out where is best to work to protect the animals. And a new report is actually coming out this month.
How do penguins learn how to swim? Like when they're born, they learn, or like what? Like, I'm a bit confused in that.
They're jump into the water. They move like a torpedo. It's their beautiful shape that makes them move through the water. It's a bit like saying, how does a bird learn to fly? It's something that is built in them. It's in their DNA. They will learn automatically. It's like baby-chilled babies will learn how to walk eventually because it's part of growing up.
I've really loved talking to you today, and it's been so brilliant to hear your questions.